Hello, my name is Heather Kelly, and I am pursuing a master's in education at the University of Kansas. And my focus is on TESOL, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages. This presentation is a portion of my electronic portfolio, and it focuses on CAPE Standard 1.3. Here is just a little bit about me. I received my bachelor's degree at the University of Central Missouri, and that was in elementary education, but I pursued a career in early childhood and became a preschool director for about 8 years. It worked well for my career path at the time because I had young children. As they've gotten older and as my interests have changed, I was looking for something new in the education field, and I began teaching children in China online. And I was helping them learn English, and I was introduced to the ESL field and decided that I wanted to further my education in that so that I could reach more children and be more successful. CAPE Standard 1.3 deals with the expectation that candidates apply content and discipline-specific knowledge as reflected in state and national standards. And the 3 artifacts that are in my portfolio are listed here, and I will go over those in this presentation. I chose to focus on the CAPE Standard because it highlights the connection between the vast majority of content throughout the master's program and ELA education standards. The standards relate well with my future plans for teaching elementary level ELLs within a pull-out setting because the expectations that general education standards are incorporated into second language education. While I offer examples of my understanding and implementation of CAPE 1.3 in all 3 of these artifacts, the majority of this presentation pulls examples from the SIOP thematic unit, but the same CAPE standard resonates throughout all 3 artifacts. The process of creating the SIOP thematic unit was time-consuming because I had never done this, I've never worked with this model before, but also it was very helpful because at the time I was still working with my Chinese students online, and so I was able to pull some of the curriculum content and what I knew about those students and use that within my SIOP planning. And also I found it helpful at the end of planning the unit because I was able to implement many parts of it with my students. As you can see here, I have 3 different examples pulled from the SIOP unit that support one standard for Common Core state standards. And that standard is determine the meaning of words and phrases in a text relevant to a grade 2 topic or subject area. And so I was working with mainly around the age of 2nd grade. At least their literacy level was at that grade level, being an ELL. So the SIOP model seemed to really help with that age level. And as you can read here, and the words in italics are pulled directly from my artifact, so I won't take time to read through all of those, but you can see how I've pulled examples that support this Common Core standard. And here we have another Common Core standard, which is recall information from experiences or gather information from provided sources to answer a question. And once again, I've pulled 2 examples from my SIOP model, and I feel that these really support the opportunities students have for gathering information and the opportunities that teachers have for providing or modeling, teaching our students the various ways that they can gain information. In the first example, the students are asked to draw upon personal experiences. This is especially important in the ESL learning environment. Because many cultures and backgrounds come together in one classroom, students must learn to relate current content with background knowledge or topics important to them. A higher level of comfortability exists when relating new knowledge to previous experiences. The second example, students are asked to use the internet and classroom books as sources of information. I think we can all agree that this is a key life skill and necessary at all levels of academics. As educators, we must assist learners in making the connections between new information and previous knowledge. Helping students create schemata was the focal point of many undergraduate courses. I'm grateful for that background knowledge as it became a large part of my philosophy when working with ELLs. Many standards incorporate personal knowledge into the academic goals and skills needed to achieve them. The process of including this standard in the SIOP lesson was an easy one. When reviewing the complete artifact, involvement of family members is included as well. This can be beneficial with ELLs as many family members don't understand standardized testing and how it relates to English language acquisition. And here is another Common Core standard that the SIOP model addresses. And it states, participate in collaborative conversations with diverse partners about grade 2 and text with peers and adults in small and larger groups. And I have two examples here. And I would like to paint a full picture of the activities preceding these examples. The final part of the SIOP unit culminates learning into a short presentation and visual of what they have learned about animal migration. Before arriving at this point, students are asked to work in pairs and as a whole class in order to collaborate and share ideas. At the second grade level, this might include conversations as simple as what animals they like the most and a discussion about their personal definition of what the word migrate means. And this was a really good tie-in with ELLs as many of them can relate to having to move or migrate for various reasons. And the final Common Core standard that is addressed in my SIOP lesson plan is produce complete sentences when appropriate to task and situation in order to provide a requested detail or clarification while demonstrating proper usage of English grammar. And so this obviously is a big part of the ELL education because grammar can help them in social situations, such as and also academic situations, such as BICS and CALP. And so here's one example that I pulled from my SIOP. After being introduced words that some students had been reviewing as well. Some of them are introduced, some of them are just reviewing it because I'm working with different proficiency levels. At the end, they look for words that end in ER or EST. Students work in pairs to identify these words within language arts context. The students independently write 5 sentences using comparatives and superlatives and again are asked to share with the class. These same techniques are used within our college classes. We're asked to work together at times, formulate our personal opinions or artifacts, then come back together to collaborate. This is yet another instance in which we can use the standards to guide our students and create learners that are college and career ready. So, closely tied to the PSYOP is the STI. And I created this artifact, this lesson, in my practicum course for my master's. And so I didn't add a whole lot with that because most of the standards the Common Core standards I just addressed are also addressed in my STI lesson. One that did stand out that I wanted to talk about is with guidance and support from adults, use a variety of tools to produce and publish writing, including collaboration with peers. As I stated previously, the PSYOP and the STI are closely related. The lesson outline itself is almost identical. I would like to point out one Common Core standard within the STI lesson plan that wasn't addressed in the PSYOP, and that is the one that I just stated. The use of technology is prevalent in almost every aspect of our lives. The Common Core standard suggests the use of various tools within the classroom and others, including the internet, countless computer applications, and other outside sources. So this is a great example, and I pulled two pieces from my STI lesson that show the ability to help students gain knowledge from various places. And then the final piece to this presentation is my curriculum plan, the third artifact within my electronic portfolio. And within the curriculum plan, it's a PowerPoint presentation, and so I have two screenshots of two slides that from that presentation. But I really enjoyed working on this curriculum plan because at the time I was working quite a few hours with my students in China. And so I was able to once again pull upon my knowledge of working with them, my experiences in what their needs were within the second language acquisition, and just within understanding cultural differences and how those need to be addressed within the education field. And so I'll go ahead and switch to the next slide, where this shows the Common Core standards that I addressed in just that curriculum plan. And like I said, it was kind of like the PSYOP model. It was time consuming to create all of this and really put a lot of thought into it, basing my students' needs and then forming objectives and then making sure that those objectives matched standards that students in China aren't even necessarily used to meeting. So kind of collaborating and meshing all of that together was a little difficult in that situation, but I found it extremely beneficial because it gave me a clear view and a clear guide as to where I wanted to take my students. Here's a screenshot of one of my students, and if you noticed from the previous screen on the standards, there were two reading standards, and they discuss recognizing words that end in the letter E and also irregularly spelled words. And so those were two of my goals with this particular student. As you can see here, I was working with him on sight words, and we made it fun. We didn't just list it. I would ask him to put it in a sentence, or I would time him and see if he could get it faster the next class. So that's the other key, is to always make learning fun. And here are my takeaways, final takeaways or implications on future teaching.